very good evening. Thanks for joining us on the news at 7 on NTA International. I'm Comfort Amodu. Welcome to the news. Our member countries of the ECOWAS sub-region have been asked to do whatever is necessary towards ensuring that terrorist groups are not allowed to destabilize the region, integration drive of the community, and undermine public aspirations for a safe, secure, and prosperous environment. President Muhammadu Buhari threw the challenge in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, during the extraordinary summit of the ECOWAS heads of states and government on counter-terrorism. More on this with Adamu Sambo.
The growing link between terrorism and organized crime, as well as threats to peace and security in the sub-region, informed this Ouagadougou summit by ECOWAS heads of state and government. The West African leaders are here to, amongst others, review different initiatives taken so far, redefine intervention areas, and put in place a mechanism towards monitoring the implementation of the measures adopted towards ensuring lasting peace across member states. ECOWAS chairman and president of Niger, Muhammadu Isufu, and other stakeholders at the opening ceremony expressed worry that no day passes without a terrorist attack, kidnapping, and other criminal acts in the Sahel and the Chad Basin, with devastating consequences.
The United Nations will continue to lend support to the region in fighting terrorism in a comprehensive manner.
Addressing his counterparts in a closed session, President Muhammadu Buhari said Nigeria, as a major victim of the Boko Haram terrorist activities, remains resolute in her efforts towards combating and eradicating the criminal elements in all their forms and manifestations. The country, he however said, cannot do it alone, given the resilience of the terror groups and the ease with which they raise funds and acquire sophisticated weapons for their dastardly acts. The president therefore called for coordinated regional actions and responses against terrorists through greater willingness by member nations to share intelligence and resources, which he described as critical in achieving the desired safety, security, and prosperity for the people. The Nigerian leader maintains that collective responsibility not to let up remains key in winning the fight against terrorism and stamping out the scourge from the sub-region. Foreign Affairs Minister Geoffrey Onyama told NTA News that the counter-terrorism summit of the ECOWAS leaders was fruitful.
African countries want this to be the last meeting in which they will just meet to talk about terrorism, and that they decided they can no longer rely on the foreign partners. So they have 8 list of priorities, ranging from efforts by countries to address the issue of small weapons and light arms, and sharing intelligence, and border controls, providing weapons, and so forth. So West African Monetary Union put forward 500 million towards the funding of the 8 priorities that will be rolled out from 2020 to 2022 with very concrete deliverables. And so this meeting agreed that ECOWAS should now also come up with 500 million US dollars, and that this will show the self-reliance of the ECOWAS member states in the fight against terrorism. So it's a defining summit meeting, really.
Some members of the Nigerian delegation to the summit applauded President Muhammadu Buhari for being passionate about matters relating to security, stability, and future of Nigeria.
There is a determined effort to stamp out, terrorism. This is a front burner project for President. He had to be here, and I'm glad that I also had the privilege of coming here with him.
If our president doesn't come for these conferences, dialogue with his colleagues from other countries, showing them the need to address security challenges within their borders, then I don't see what else he'll be doing. We have to try every means to ensure a safer Nigeria.
Fighting insurgency and terrorism is not in the lack of plan, but it is in the coordinated activity of countries and nations within the sub-region. It is a worthwhile exercise, and I thank God that our dear president was present.
President Muhammadu Buhari has since returned to Abuja. Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
Nigerian's permanent representative to the United Nations, Professor Tijani Mohammed Bande, is set to assume office as the President of the United Nations General Assembly. ONGA with great hopes to actualize major priorities of Nigeria and the African continent. In a statement by Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu indicates that the ceremonies will take place at the UN New York headquarters on September 16th and 17th, ahead of the ONGA's high-level week, when leaders of the nations of the world take turns to address the General Assembly. A Nigerian government team to the historic event, which will be led by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Anyama, will include the Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, Ambassador Ahmed Rufai Abubakar, and the Senior Special Assistant, Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu. Nigerian's permanent representative to the UN was elected President of the 74th session of the General Assembly by acclamation on Tuesday, June 4th, to serve the one-year role with a strong mandate from his home government, which nominated him, endorsed by the group of African states, and adopted unanimously by the member states. And Governor of Ogun State, Dapo Abiodun, says his victory at the state's governorship election petitions tribunal clearly attests to the ordination of his mandate by God. He said while reacting to the judicial decision in an interview with correspondent Adamu Sambo in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, on the sidelines of the just concluded extraordinary ECOWAS leaders summit on counter-terrorism.
My mandate is a divine mandate. Anybody who continues to struggle with it is wasting his time. And I'm glad that the judiciary have been fair, they have been just. I'm glad that they have delivered their judgment meticulously, they have properly articulated it, they have dealt with all the issues, and I believe that this matter has now been put to rest. We can now focus on governance. I'm glad that all what I stood for in terms of good governance, I have started implementing it. All my visions, I've started implementing it in the areas of security, areas of good governance. I promise to be participatory, to be inclusive, to be just, to be fair, to be equitable. I promise to be transparent. I promise that I will be accountable. All that I've started doing. I promise that I will focus on security. I promise that I will focus on infrastructure. I've started doing all that across the state. Let everybody now join hands together so that we can build our future together in Ogun State.
The uneven distribution of amenities and development is said to be one of the major causes of civil unrest. To overcome this challenge requires planning, which in turn is dependent on proper identification of citizens and data. Using the Nigerian scenario, Victor Azu in this special report attempt to establish the link between national identity, planning and development.
A picture, they say, is worth 1,000 words. The glaring contrast in this picture tells a compelling story. It is the story of the haves and the have-nots. The Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, also known as the Global Goals, were adopted by all United Nations member states, including Nigeria, in 2015. It was a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. Goal 16 seeks to promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable and inclusive institutions at all levels. Subsection 9 particularly talks about providing legal identity for all, including free birth registrations by 2030. This is to inspire equitable distribution of resources from the highbrow Banana Island in Lagos to the slums of Kuruduma in the FCT. This explains why Nigeria has joined the Coalition of International Identity Day, which commemorates the Identity Day on September 16 every year as a way of creating awareness.
For government to protect you, for government to give you service, government also wants to know who you are. You want things to be rational between you and other human beings. You don't want some group of people to take the lion's share and then give you something else. Without government knowing you, there is no way that the government will give you any form of service.
President Muhammadu Buhari had directed that a single national identity be created for every Nigerian, with the National Identity Management Commission (NIMC) driving the process. The Director General tells me that nearly 40 million Nigerians have had their biometrics captured and given national identity numbers.
The focus is not on the card, the focus is on the number, and it is the number that is like your name. When the card expires, then you will be given a new card and it will have a different number. But new does not expire. It goes with you from birth to death.
He indicates that the ultimate goal is to get to a point in the country where the national identity number NIN will be used and authenticated before provision of social amenities. In Abuja, Victor Azu, NTA News.
As part of ongoing drive to fight crude oil theft, pipeline vandalism and illegal bunkering, the Central Naval Command has flagged off a military exercise. The periodic exercise, in line with the Chief of Naval Strategists' directives, is aimed at safeguarding the nation's critical oil assets through enhanced patrol and surveillance within the maritime domain. The 3 days operation that involves fleet maneuvers, communication and gunnery exercises also focused on eradicating maritime crime within the command's areas of responsibilities.
So what we intend to do this time around is to go out and practice our vessels, anti-poaching activities, illegal, unregulated fishing, as well as to go after all those vessels that refuse to switch on their automatic identification systems.
In Katsina State, Shehu Adamu reports that major border routes to Niger Republic are partially closed as directed by government, and the response from the people is positive.
A visit to Katsina Central Market shows that imported rice, which hitherto flooded the market, is now scarce due to the national border drill exercise. Traders at the market informed NTA News that despite the demand for the locally produced rice, the commodity is also scarce, thereby causing increase in its price.
Before the border closed, the tailor rice is 12.5 here in Katsina. Okay. But the local rice, we don't see it. But after the border closed, our own local rice is 13,000.
On the other hand, a carton of local spaghetti, which goes for 2,800 naira, is now 3,800 naira, while that of a foreign brand is sold at 3,100 naira.
Regarding to the price of the products, they have been escalated. I mean, from what they used to be, oil, rice, spaghetti, and all these products that do come in at cheaper rates. We don't usually get them like we used to do.
ACG Bashir Abubakar is the coordinator of the Northwest Border Drill Operations.
Intelligence report we got specifically on issue of smugglers of rice. We have identified some of them to also be the brain behind importation of illicit drugs.
As the border closure continues, residents of Katsina State call on the producers of the local rice to improve on their production in terms of quality and quantity.
For instance, you are a worker and a family woman, you come back from your business, you'll be very tired. Instead of just start working, picking rice, washing rice, but with the foreign rice, it helps a lot. You just go to your bag of rice directly, you just fetch some and start cooking. But with the local rice, you go through a lot of stress.
They also requested the federal government to compel producers to ensure adequate supply of the commodity to meet the increase in demands.
In Katsina, Shehu Adamu, NTA News.
And we'll take a quick break now. More reports when we return.
The rains are here again. Floods are ravaging. Why? As residents of FCT, we have made some wrong choices. Dumping refuse in water channels, building on waterways, damaging water lines. The consequences of flooding can be devastating. Lives are lost. Properties are damaged. People are displaced. Farmlands are destroyed. Don't make the wrong choices. Don't build on floodplains. Don't dump refuse in waterways. Don't damage water lines. Clear all refuse in waterways around your premises. Together, we can safeguard lives and property. Do the right thing now. For emergencies, please call 112, toll free. This message is from the FCT Emergency Management Agency, FEMA.
Hey you! And are you how they talk to? Sabi you now. It's in day your mind, Abi. The person with them go help us. Baba Toros and Shangalo. Oga Lekuva, Mr. Sabi. And you don't fit carry last for this one.
A spear into the top corner.
We Sabi say Pikin go crawl before in waka. So don't look, no help anybody. No dolly, no. So go for her. Go for football. Go for Osorio on La Liga Martins live. Go for Go TV Max.
Welcome back. And now coffee is among the 1.2 billion cups of beverage being consumed daily globally. Musa Bali reports that coffee business is gradually booming, especially in the Nigerian's Federal Capital Territory.
It is observed that Nigeria and Niger Republic has the highest number of tea vendors in Africa. In Nigeria, they popularly known as Meshai, with majority of them coming from the northern part of the country. It is estimated that Nigeria has close to 2 million tea vendors across the country. Apart from the tea vendors, one business that thrives in Nigeria's major cities is coffee drinking points. The coffee spots are more organized and probably designed for a particular class of people. I visited one of the coffee joints in Abuja and met this waiter making a cup of coffee.
From, let's say, 10 a.m. to 12, we have like 30 persons on daily basis coming to take coffee.
We push the demand and the consumption side of coffee, but it's important as we push, we also need to secure our supply. That directly means that we need to support local growth of Nigerian coffee.
There are more than 10 coffee spots within the city, but one major thing I observed is that the coffee used are all imported from Brazil, Ethiopia and Kenya.
Oh yeah, sure. But you know, if you can make it a little bit drier, a little bit more crispy and things like that, then you go and then perfect it until it is good. And let people know that drinking coffee is not even poisonous as many people think.
The executive director, International Coffee Organization, while interacting with him during his recent visit in Nigeria, said Nigeria has no business importing coffee.
I think it's an important opportunity for Nigeria to learn from the experience of other producing countries. What has worked, what doesn't work.
With the enabling environment and government's plan to provide more support to coffee farmers, it is expected that the output of coffee production in Nigeria will soon get the much-needed boost. Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
And moving on, Chairman Senate Committee on Cooperation and Integration in Africa, Senator Chimaroke Namani, has commended the proprietor and management of Air Peace Airline for the prompt intervention to rescue Nigerian citizens facing unabating xenophobic attacks in South Africa. Senator Namani, representing Enugu East Senatorial District in the Upper Legislative Chamber, in a statement in Abuja, said he was particularly touched by the patriotism and uncommon spirit of brotherhood exhibited by the Managing Director of Air Peace Airline, Alan Ifechukwu Oyema, and his team. The former governor of Enugu State describes as commendable the bold steps taken by the management of Air Peace and to rescue stranded Nigerian citizens in South Africa on account of the xenophobic attacks by South Africans. The gesture, he says, will go a long way to give hope and mitigate the pains of the victims who have lost their means of livelihood. Senator Namani therefore tasked the federal government to create a program of rehabilitation for for the returnees so that they would be fully reintegrated into the society. Now, 48 to the Chinese government is now a significant figure as it reminds them of the benefiting relationship with Nigeria over the period. This led the China General Chamber of Commerce in Nigeria to honor 48 Nigerians with awards for their remarkable efforts in promoting Nigeria-China relations at their various places of work. Patricia Sami-Luba was at the Gala Night in Abuja, which featured cultural displays from both countries.
For the past 7 decades, China say it has struggled to achieve what today is called the modern China. That is why it prides itself as the largest economy in the world, thereby putting people first and rating that as the first key element in terms of progress within any nation. Call it a sure step on the road to greater understanding and future partnership between Nigeria and China, and you won't be wrong.
We are working very hard ourselves, and we have good friends like Nigeria.
Patriotism to one's country. China is today one of the greatest countries in the world.
The policies formulated by the Chinese government continue to work together with the Chinese and Nigeria people.
Of course, Nigeria acknowledges its role to the betterment of its people, whereby bringing its investors to invest in Nigeria. Minister of the Federal Capital Territory represented congratulates the government of China and its people at its anniversary of the founding, and that Nigeria's doors are open to more benefiting relations.
We have the capacity. We also are willing to accommodate. It's a win-win situation.
The Chinese government is using the opportunity to support the various award recipients and encourage them towards greater bilateral relations, hence the award to 48 Nigerians with outstanding records. In Abuja, Patricia Sami-Luba, NTA News.
And now in sports, Tunisia is holding its second free presidential poll since the 2011 uprising that topped former President Ben Ali and sparked the Arab Spring. The election was brought forward from the November after death in July of Beji Said's the first democratically elected president who took office in 2014. 26 candidates, including 2 women, are running in the election. It's widely viewed as a test of one of the world's youngest democracy. Mr. won Tunisia's first presidential election in 2014 and was credited with largely maintaining stability in the country during his most 5-year rule. At 92, he was the oldest sitting president in the world at the time of his death. And now let's join Amanzi Marcos for sports update.
The Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dare, says it is only after an audit of what is needed to fix the National Stadium in Surulere, Lagos, is conducted that a process will be put in motion to effect repairs on the edifice. Speaking during an inspection tour of the facility, Dare lamented the decaying state of the National Stadium while restating his commitment to renovating all sports facilities across the country. He also inspected the indoor sports hall, swimming pool, media center, and gymnasium, which are in good shape.
There is political will on the part of the president and the presidency to make sure that national monuments such as this will find out options in which we can restore them back to glory.
The FIBA World Cup ended in China on Sunday with Spain victorious, defeating Argentina